How well do you see the bigger picture? I'm Christy Birchville, and today we're continuing through Daniel chapter 3. We're studying this incredible book, really trying to understand how to lead through challenging circumstances. And we're coming up on a really challenging circumstance that the people had to lead through in this case. We're looking specifically at Daniel chapter 3, verses 8 through 12. Now, I have read this story, I can't even tell you how many times, and I've seen this depicted in children's Bibles and children's stories, but I never really noticed these verses until today. As so often we're taught that this whole story is about three men who stood up to the king. They refused to bow down to him and they would worship God alone. And that's completely true. However, there's an additional aspect of this that I hadn't noticed before. If we look at Daniel chapter 3, verse 12, we see some of the astrologers and other wise men have gone to the king, and they're telling him this verse. It says, "But there are some Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who pay no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold you have set up." Did you catch that at the beginning? It's actually in verse 8 as well. These men were set up because they were Jews. The king apparently didn't have an issue in the moment with what was going on. He hadn't noticed that they weren't bowing down. But other people didn't like the fact that they were Jews. They didn't care that they weren't bowing down. This is a hate crime that was initiated because the other wise men that were working for the king hated the Jews. Because of their hatred of the Jews, these men brought up the fact that the Jews were acting in a way that was different and that the king would see as a problem. It doesn't say the king hated Jews. So these men had to find something that the Jews were doing that the king would hate so that he would then take action against them. Looking at our own lives, it's important to recognize that not everything is always exactly what it seems. And often there are multiple factors that are leading to the decisions that people make. Motivations can be split across a wide range of factors. We cannot, in our own understanding, always see all the factors that are influencing a person's decisions. But God can. God understood exactly what was going on, and he recognized the motivations of the heart of those who were involved. Now, as we go through the rest of this chapter, we'll see how these men carry themselves during this incredible challenge. But what we ultimately see through this story is that God knew and understood every single aspect of the motivations, the drive, and the focus behind every step that led to this story. These other men may have hated Jews, and they may have played on the king's pride to get him to act against the Jews. But God is ultimately in control of it all. No matter what circumstances we are leading through, we can trust that God is in control and that he sees the bigger picture that we may not always see. In fact, I would say that we often don't always see. Are we trusting God and leaning on him to allow him to lead us through these circumstances that we're in? If you've missed any of the story leading up, there's a whole lot that goes on in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So make sure that you click on the link in the description below to go to the full playlist for this series. And then be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss anything going forward. Thanks so much.